English in the senior classes at GEMS Modern Academy. And that's Miss Celine Ribeiro. She's the head primary of our school. And we're here to share a couple of ideas about what we do when we have new staff join us. Let me just say as a preface, thank you, sir, for attending this because I was beginning to feel outnumbered there. We're not any authority on well-being. We're just here to share very basic ideas of what we do and what we've done as a school over time to make our school a little happier place to work in. And hopefully in the course of the next session, we'll learn some ideas from you as well, because that's what we hope to take away from this. Can I just ask somebody, one or two people, to read out what they thought was the one or two things that could make a teacher happy? Any volunteers? All right.
I just put down, I've got three things: supportive leadership team,
All right.
feeling like you're being listened to, or feeling like you're a valued member of staff, and being given praise when it's due.
Okay. Supportive leadership team. I think that was an important one. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Your appreciation from your team members as well as from the leaders.
All right. Appreciation. Very good. Like that one. Anything else? Anything different?
An environment where you feel like you're part of the school, you feel a sense of belonging.
A sense of belonging. Okay. Okay. Anything from the back? Something that makes, in your opinion, a teacher happy?
Feel that they are contributing members.
Okay. When teachers feel like they're contributing to something. Okay. That was very nice. And before we begin, I'm going to ask you, if you see the chart paper in front of you, together in your groups, I want you to define for us what, in your opinion, as a group is well-being or wellness. And you feel free to depict it in any way possible. If you think you can do a better job of the visual harvesters and you want to do a pictorial representation, that's absolutely fine. But what, in your opinion, is the definition of well-being? And if you can do this collectively, we'd appreciate that. All right, so we're going to give you 2 minutes, maybe 3, your definition of well-being.
Let's put something in impact.
Then you can tell them.
No, I heard them say that.
Okay.
I heard them say connect. I heard them say something.
How would you define well-being?
How would you define?
Total, it's like physical, emotional, blend of it. Yeah, it's a balance.
Fair balance. Everything has to be in alignment of your physical appearance as well as your
Absolutely.
mental health.
Absolutely.
Coming to school every day itself. You're allowed to come to school every day.
You have to enjoy.
Yes, just enjoy being with your team.
Ritual is very important and it channelizes your positive.
All right, just 1 more minute, okay? Hi, ma'am. All right. If I can ask one person from each group, each cluster, if you can just tell us what you discussed in your group, what is your definition of well-being? All right, let's start with this group right here.
We feel well-being
Maybe face the rest of them.
we feel well-being is happiness, and it involves peace, balance in life, a sense of achievement, good health, strong human bonds at work and at home, an active mind, spiritual and mental health.
All right, thank you. What about that group?
For teacher well-being, we think a positive atmosphere in the whole school is very important, and they should be part of the decision making so that they feel valued. I think the work should be very planned. There are no last minute ideas, and the organization should be systematic.
Okay. This group right here. Can somebody just read it out? Yeah.
We kind of tried to depict something. We saw that it was a balance, kind of balance of a true blend of spiritual, physical, mental, social, emotional, financial factors.
All right. And this group?
We've got room for growth, connect with others, be active, keep learning, be curious, be reflective, to be in a healthy atmosphere, to have positive feedback, open to mistakes, sharing experiences and practices, and freedom to express or voice opinions.
Thank you. I think you've taken all the buzzwords and you've put them all into those charts. So you're going to hear a lot of that, and there's going to be a lot of repetition. But we're just going to focus on a couple of things we do to ensure that the school environment is happy. Just one point I'd like to make here. Though this says orientation for new teachers, and straight away that takes us to academics, we're going to run you through a couple of things that we do differently, so that you can take back some ideas about what we do at Modern. Well, actually, we're here to tell you that there is no set rule or definition for wellness, and there is no set idea of how far an organization needs to go to ensure the wellness and well-being of their staff. I read a website called Edutopia quite often, and I'm sure some of you have heard of Edutopia. And they have a fabulous article online that talks about how far organizations are willing to go to ensure the well-being of their staff members. Because today businesses across the world, organizations and offices across the world realize that their biggest assets are their workforce, the people who work for them and who carry out their work. And schools should as well understand that the best results will come from a staff and a workforce that is well and happy and content to be part of a team that can achieve a lot along the way. So we're here to tell you that in our opinion, and from where we see it, wellness and well-being really depends on the organization you come from, the kind of resources you have, and how you want to go about ensuring wellness. A lot of schools in the West have a wellness policy, and it's a document, and it's very systematic, it's very strategic, it's very definite. We don't have a wellness policy as such, but there are certain things we do along the way that we've learned from time and experience that helps us get to where we need to be. I've been at Modern for 6.5 years now, so I know what was done for me as a new teacher, and I've watched over time how it has developed since then. Ms. Ribeiro here has been with Modern for 25, 26, 27 years.
When I came in, it was totally different. We were the first overseas teachers, and what we received and how we were welcomed and what was the orientation program that we went through was completely different, and it has evolved over the number of years that I've been at Modern, the past 27 years. And I've also been involved in the welcoming program for new staff.
Ma'am is presently our welfare officer, and a little later in the session she's going to talk about how she's seen this idea of wellness and well-being take shape over time. But moving on, some of the things that determine what we do for wellness are what you see up there. And a lot of you brought that up in your discussion. A lot of you brought that up in your definition of what makes teachers happy. And we're looking at improving life in general for the teachers we induct into modern. We look at improving productivity of those teachers. We look at making them feel as if they are part of a team, like ma'am said a little while ago, making them feel as if they contribute to everything that goes on in the school. We look at training and development, which is one of the things that we are naturally drawn to when we talk about orientations. We look at morale and attitude. Somebody said, you know, when teachers want to come to school and they're happy to come to school and they don't absent, that's when you know you're doing something right where well-being is concerned. I think that was you, ma'am. That's exactly what we believe. And of course, we look at reducing turnover rate, which is a huge problem, especially in this part of the world. I'm happy to say that in the last academic year at Modern, we've had 52 new teachers. And of those 52 new teachers, only 2 were unable to adjust to life in Dubai, life in Modern, and of course they're not with us today. But that's a huge boost for us to think that we were able to successfully integrate 50 new teachers into our system based on the way we go about inducting them into Modern High, into GEMS Modern Academy. I'm going to show you how there are things we do that generally lend themselves to these categories. And again, this came up in the discussion from you. And I'm going to leave some time in the end for you to ask us questions that hopefully we'll be able to answer. But not all our programs revolve around academic inductions. Our orientations are not academically driven. And there's a lot of things that we do to ensure that even before a teacher steps foot into Modern, he or she is absolutely content, absolutely happy with the way we've approached the recruitment, the way she or he has been received into the school. And that, I think, makes our approach to orientation so much more unique and so much more warm for new teachers coming into our school. So we say, we look at intellectual and occupational orientations. We look at helping them get through emotionally. We look at how we can involve them, how we can involve ourselves in making their environments friendly for them, accommodations, any special needs they may have. Of course, social and physical, and more importantly, the emotional orientations as well. How do we ensure that our teachers are well, are happy, and are emotionally adept to working at Modern? So we've divided it into 3 stages to make this easy for you. And we'll give you as many examples along the way as possible. So the first stage of our well-being and wellness policy, so to speak, is the recruitment stage. And this is a stage at the time in which we don't even know the teachers personally. We've just probably read their CVs, spoken to them over the phone a couple of times, maybe at an interview. And this, I think, is one of the most crucial times for a teacher who is leaving a present work situation or leaving a country and moving to Dubai. And I think it's something that Modern does fantastically. I've experienced it myself, and here's a couple of examples of how we do this so well. First, the interview. And any interview can be daunting. Ma'am, please feel to chip in here. Yeah?
I was just thinking I could take over that part, because once the teachers have accepted the offer letter that they received, then we start this contact over the phone. We call them and we chat with them so they know that there's a name behind the voice that is on the phone. And we talk to them and find out whether they are married, whether they have children, do they want admission for their children, what are the documents that they require for admission for their children. And we also look at whether they are going to stay in staff accommodation, will they avail of HR. We look at those aspects. When they arrive, before they can arrive, we tell them that you will be met at the airport by a hospitality team. And we have a set of teachers who greets these teachers at the airport and take them to their residence. They spend the day with them, they get them their SIM cards, if they've arrived late or if they've not had a meal, they take them out for a meal. They show them around the medical center, which are the areas where they can go shopping and things like that. And but they also are their social mentors, because they are the teachers who live in and around that vicinity. So if the Sharjah teacher, then she'll go pick them up and she will be their social mentor. So over the weekend, she will call them and find out if they are okay, do they need any assistance. If they are ill, like we've had 2 or 3 teachers who've arrived and on arrival have fallen ill due to the change in weather. They've taken them to the pharmacy, got their medicine, taken them home, actually to their own homes, looked after them, taken them back to their residence, and provided substantial, nutritious food for them, like soup and things like that. So the teachers feel very comforted, they feel secure, and they feel happy to be in the environment that they are in. And when they come to school, they are met in school by the principal, by the members of the SLT, by the heads of department, and we have a kind of a get-together where we get to know them. They introduce themselves to us, what are their strengths, what do they like to do, what are their passions, what could they contribute to school. And we take them for a trip in Dubai, a bus trip which is organized by the school. So they have the opportunity at least to see parts of Dubai that could be difficult for them to reach. So just generally a very short tour, and they get their relocation allowance, which will help them tide over till they get their first salary. So it's a very warm welcome that we do give these teachers, and if they have any problems in their residence, then they can go to their social mentors, or they can come and approach me. And if they have any problems or issues with academics, then we have an academic mentor as well.
I think ma'am has stolen all my points. But I just want to highlight a couple of things there. For me, when I was being recruited to Modern, I knew a lot of people in Modern already because a lot of teachers were from Calcutta. But what stood out for me was that every time I spoke to somebody over the phone, I was always then transferred to the principal or the headmaster or somebody in authority who was as involved in my recruitment as anybody who was put in an administrative position there. It made me feel as if, I was being taken a special interest in. And having that little chat, even if it was 2 minutes over the phone with the principal of the school, telling him my anxieties, telling him my worries, and just getting a sense of reassurance from them, which we still continue to do. The principal talks to everybody who is being recruited, I think plays a huge role. Small things like ensuring that the person who is being recruited doesn't make the calls to the school. So we don't ask any person we're recruiting to call us because of the expenses involved. It's always us that calls them. And I think that's such an important thing to make teachers feel welcome. When I arrived 6 years ago, I received a welcome basket with water, with bread, with eggs, with fruit, with tea, with coffee, basically supplies for an entire week. I'm not standing here and saying that we do everything well. I'll tell you why. Because the year I arrived, something funny happened. We talked about the welcoming team. The person who was supposed to welcome me overslept. It was a weekend, and the person who was supposed to welcome me overslept. So I was waiting at the airport. The other teachers had been received, and I stood there and I waited and I waited and I waited, and I had nowhere to go till they finally realized that this had happened. But for the next week and a half, the school felt so bad about it that they made it up to me by taking me to every restaurant I could possibly want to go in Sharjah. And I ate out every night that week. And I think the people I met in the process who took me out every night it was a different teacher, have remained my closest friends and colleagues till this day. But the idea of putting you onto a social mentor, someone who looks after you, not about the academics, not about the nitty-gritty of what school requires, but just to see who you are and get to know you, makes a huge deal. Today the welcome pack has evolved. It's a lot more. In fact, they get microwaves and they get a SIM card and they get, as ma'am said, a relocation allowance to help them tide over till their first salary. And ma'am will talk to you about that a little later. But it's a huge boost to somebody who walks in to a new accommodation, to a new environment for the first time. So that's stage one. And we'll come back for questions at the end. While we were discussing this workshop, our principal and vice principal talked about this theory that we're all so familiar with. The reason I put it up there, and we're just going to spend a couple of seconds on it, not more, is that we always look at it, because we're teachers, from the student's point of view. What does a student need? What can we do to meet these needs of a student? But something so crucial came up in our discussion when we flipped it and we said, we could use the same idea to look at what teachers need and cater to those needs so that our teachers are happier and that our school is a place of wellness and well-being. So that's what we believe in. After our teachers have been recruited, and we're moving now into stage 2 of our orientation, we don't plunge them into all the academic nitty-gritty. In fact, we strongly believe that even though a teacher may be new to our environment, they come with a wealth of experience, a wealth of knowledge, and a wealth of achievements. And I think that is such an incredible thing to acknowledge when you have new staff, and it can make such a huge deal to that person in question. So there's an informal meeting with our head of school, with our vice principal, with our SLT, who get to know them, their likes, their dislikes, what they're good at, any sort of question, query, anxiety, concern that they may have is looked into. They're introduced to the whole staff. They're literally made to stand up, and they're introduced to the whole staff. But every time they do that, our principal reads out a list of that person's achievements, what they've done in their previous school, what they've accomplished, the kind of workshops they've been for, workshops they've conducted, awards they've received over time, things that they are known for from where they come. And as a teacher, as a new teacher at the time, for me to be acknowledged as, at the time I was inexperienced, I was absolutely fresh, but to acknowledge small things like an award I won, or an anecdote about his interaction with me at the interview, made me feel some sort of a connection with the staff. And till today they remind me, when we first met you, this is what the principal said. The first time we saw you, this is what he said. And I think that plays such a huge role in helping someone break into a new environment. So we've had a couple of new recruits this time, and there's a lady from Calcutta who, her name is Ayoti Ghosh. And at the interview, at the introduction to the staff, Mr. Bloud spoke about 5 minutes about Ayoti's love for dancing. And he kept boasting and waxing eloquent about her achievements in dancing. But over this year, as she's gotten more involved in everything that's happening in school, she's very comfortably taken on all sorts of endeavors to ensure that some children are using dance effectively. She's very involved in programs. Any events that we're holding, if we need a special dance performance, Ayoti is the one who's handling it, and not the teachers who've been there for n number of years. So it's very easy for teachers to feel as if they can contribute because they bring their wealth of experience and all of their achievements with them. You want to add something, ma'am? So that's stage 2, where we bring the staff out. We talk to them. It's very informal. In fact, we have a high tea that day. They meet, they greet, they get to know each other. We have a house system, and so the new staff is put into a house system where they get to know other people. They obviously already have their social mentors, and they've already met people who are living in their areas around them, so they know who they can go to for help. So this is stage 2 before all the academic orientation takes place. As you can see, by this time, a new staff would be quite comfortable. This takes place over a couple of days, of course, and they would already be quite comfortable. They'd already know enough people who they could go to for whatever wants or whatever worries they may have at this time. Stage 3 is where we have a sit-down induction and orientation for them. This usually happens when the children are not around in school. This usually happens when the rest of the staff are workshopping. But as you will know, teaching in Dubai is not easy. And over the last 5 years, it's gotten more and more difficult. And there's so many things that any staff who comes to Dubai needs to know. And we don't believe in overkill. We don't believe in overkill. In fact, we've had, ma'am, help me out here. Just before the KHDA inspection, how many new teachers did we have? We had about 12 or 13 new teachers 5 days before our KHDA inspection, and we were a little worried about how they would be received. But again, our school doesn't believe in cramming and overkill just for the sake of it. So what we did was we sat the inspectors down, we told them, here are our 12 new teachers, this is how far they have progressed in their orientation, this is what you can expect from them. But I'm sorry, you can't expect that much more. They're going to get there eventually, but and this is the program we have in place for them, but this is how far they've reached in their orientation. I think that works wonders. So the pressure, the stress of having to perform a certain way is lessened because of that. So there's an introduction program where they are met by every person in authority who they need to know. For example, who do they go to for medical insurance advice? Who do they go to for academic advice? So every supervisor in our school has an academic coordinator. So they are introduced to their academic coordinator, they are introduced to their supervisors, they are introduced to the company structure, the organizational chart, who is at the top, where do they go for what they need, and more importantly, all the systems and procedures that we have in place. So everything from academics, examinations, workshops, all of those things, gradually there's a system by which over time, in little doses, not overkill, they're made to get all the information that they require. We also have follow-up sessions. We have something called a care cell, where teachers meet in smaller groups with a social and an academic mentor. We have something called the quality cycle. So our mentors go into each class with a new teacher. They watch them, they observe them, invite the new teacher into their class, and for example, they tell them, for today your task is to observe differentiation in my lesson. And before they're given the theory of what differentiation is and what we require from them in terms of differentiation, they actually see it take place in a couple of lessons before, and then they're helped to put it into practice themselves. I think the follow-up that we conduct is so crucial to everything that we do, because the follow-up ensures that we know, as already existing staff members, as already people who've already been there, how far we have progressed in our aim to introduce them to everything that we have at Modern. So the follow-up is taken on by teachers who are working with them socially, teachers who are working with them academically, our supervisors, our principal and vice principal themselves. We have a culture where we don't need to inform teachers that we're coming to observe a lesson. We have this culture where we don't tell them in advance, you're going to be observed today. So it's a very comfortable feeling when somebody walks into your room and says, I'm going to spend 5 minutes here today. So gradually that follow-up becomes part and parcel of everything we do. I remember the first lesson that the principal and vice principal observed of me. I thought they would be very, very grand with their praise, and they would say all good things. But they sat me down and said to me, here are your strengths, but here are some things you've got to work on. And they didn't just leave it at that. They told me how I would do it and who would help me accomplish that. So I've moved from being good at these things to actually developing more skills along the way because of the people they put to help me. So the follow-up becomes essential. That's basically it. We don't have a program that's only academic oriented, but as I told you, right from the time when they decide to join us, which we think is a huge deal in the first place, because that's why we want to celebrate their presence in our school, to the time that they're finally part and parcel of everything that we do, there's always somebody guiding them along the way. I'm going to give ma'am, I just put that there because it's academic overkill every time you think of an orientation program. But ma'am has been here for 27 years, and I've asked her to close. We have 5 minutes. I've asked her to close by telling you how our induction and orientation program has changed over time, what it used to be, how it is now, and some of the problems we faced along the way, because it's not been easy. There's definitely been issues, and some people get left back at the airport sometimes, but ma'am will tell you how we do that.
The induction program and the welcoming pact in the hospitality team, as I've told you, has evolved over the years. All said and done, it's not always a hunky-dory situation. You do have a lot of challenges that come with adults leaving their comfort zone, leaving their families back home, and expecting a different lifestyle in Dubai. When you're in Dubai, everybody thinks the roads are paved with gold and life is all hunky-dory. But we actually come here and you experience life, you realize it's not all that what you heard back home. We do have challenges where we have teachers sharing accommodation and not getting along, so we have to sit them down and explain to them, just like a married couple, you got to get your act together and be compatible and just accept one another and agree to disagree, but amicably. We also have cases, it's a very happy scene that you see here where teachers are all the time very happy. But we are also there for them when they are really down and out. We've had teachers whose flats have actually seen fires and they have been absolutely devastated. But the whole family gets together. The modern family just rises to the situation, and we have been supporting that teacher financially, taking him home, helping him to get back his house in order. And when the house was in order, he gave us a lovely welcome house party. And we all went to it, and we all enjoyed it and celebrated the renewal of his house. We've also had teachers who have been seriously sick, have been hospitalized, have been here all alone. We have teachers who go there on a rotation basis to spend the night, to spend the day, to be with them, to comfort them, to support them. We also keep in contact with their families back home. We've also had teachers who've worked with us and have expired, and we have actually accompanied their families with their earthly remains. So all said and done, we are there for the staff in times of happiness, in times of sorrow, in times of trouble. We try and make them feel comfortable, because we feel that if you have a happy teacher community, you'll have happy children, and if you have happy children, our work is done. I just want to leave you with that.
Before we end, we want to hear from you as well. If there's something that you do in your school, small things that you do that make a difference to the lives of your teachers, really that will help us. But like ma'am said, very, very honestly, I think a sense of community, a sense of belonging, that's what makes a school special, that's what makes a school different. We're all very, very opinionated, strong-minded individuals, and there's a lot of times when we disagree on a lot of things, but at the end of the day we realize what we're there for, and like ma'am said, happy teachers make happy children, and I couldn't agree more. I think that's a perfect line to end with, because very honestly, everything we do, everything we accomplish comes from a sense of passion, comes from a sense of love for what we do. In spite of everything that goes wrong for whatever reasons, there is a sense of community, there is a sense of belonging, and it goes from the topmost person to our support staff. Everybody is looked after. One of our support staff recently needed a huge amount of money for a family member back home, and at their wits' end didn't know how to do it. Our staff collected money together, small things like that I'm sure other schools do. We're not saying that we're the only ones who do it, but we're saying the act of doing it is what makes the difference, and it's the little things that you do that add up to make a difference to the whole school community. So thank you for listening. Like I said, there's no strict rule or no policy that we follow, but there are little things that we do to ensure that Modern is a happy place to work. But if you have things that you do, this is the time we would really like for you to tell us what are the things you do. So will somebody start the ball rolling by telling us a couple of things that you do in your schools?
I think you've covered everything. It's really hard to think of anything different.
The only thing is you people have streamlined it so well and sequentially put it together. Probably may not be in that sequential order in the other schools.
Okay. Anything else you can think of? What about anything?
So basket would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Exactly. Welcome to our basket. I think that is something that we all need to.
Actually, when we first came to Modern, there were teachers who arrived at the airport and they came to school with bag and baggage, and they were straightway put into a class. It was you sink or you float. It was that kind of a situation. When I came in, at least I was welcomed with a welcome basket, because we did meet with the principal in Bombay, because he knew he got the 5 teachers together. We met him in Bombay for our interview and signed our contract over there. So for us, it was a different kettle of fish altogether. But through the years, we've seen teachers arrive at the airport on their own, being taken to their residence by the admin officer, not knowing a soul. Then the next day they're told your bus will pick you up at this point in time. They're brought to school and they just go to class. And over there we felt that something is lacking. We are losing that family spirit. We are losing that human touch. And so it has evolved, and it will carry on evolving.
One of the things that I love watching is when young teachers come, and I've accompanied some of them, because the day they arrive, they're taken out for dinner. They already have their welcome pass kit, so they have their SIM card. They can already contact people back home. There's no worry about getting a SIM card. How do I contact my family? And then we do the tour of Dubai, which gives them plenty of photo ops, for Facebook and everything. And immediately they start texting people home, sending pictures home, and it's such a joy to watch them enjoy those first few days before they're thrown into everything that the school has to offer. Because when they do go to school, they're so much more comfortable. They already know a couple of people. They've already seen a bit of Dubai, and they're so much more comfortable in their own skin. But small things, just small things. Thank you. We'd love to hear feedback from you, and if you think anything that we could do differently or something that you do that would help us, please feel free to share. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can just give one more minute. We have a young man here who is here to make his speech.